Okay, so I'm going to be just explaining factors a little bit more and how to find them all. So we're going to do the number 60. So we're going to do the factor rainbow. Remember, the best thing to do, or the first thing you always want to start with, is drawing your rainbow from 1 to the number that you're doing. So 1 to 60, because even prime numbers that only have 2 factors can always be divided by 1 in itself. Okay, then the next thing, we're going to talk about divisibility rules later, which are kind of like tricks to help you always know if a number can be divided by a certain other number. But before we go over those, we're just going to kind of make sure we go through a process where we don't forget any factors. So with numbers that end in even numbers, like 60, those are always divisible by 2, which means 2 is always going to be a factor in the rainbow. Okay, so anytime it ends in an even number, put 2 as the next ray in your rainbow. So now you have to ask yourself, well, what is 60 divided by 2? Or 2 times what is 60? So if you can't have 60 in your head, you're going to have to do long division. But when you go through that process, you will find out that 2 times 30 is 60, right? It's exactly half. So then what you want to do is you want to try the next number after 2, which is 3. And so you would do long division if you weren't sure, but 3 does go into 60 20 times. 3 times 20 is 60. Then you want to try the number 4. So if you weren't sure what 4 into 60 was, you would set up your long division. So 4 goes into 6 one time, take away 4, bring down the 0. 4 goes into 25 times, and if you're not left with a remainder, then you know it's a factor. So 4 times 15 is 60, which means it needs to be the next ray in the rainbow. Once we learn our divisibility rules, you'll learn that anytime a number ends in a 0 or a 5, it can always be divided by 5. Okay, so 5 does go into 60, so I'm going to put 5 down. But then I need to figure out how many times does 5 go into 60. So you could skip count by 5, right? You could start writing out your multiples and then count how many groups, or you could do long division. So 5 goes into 6 once, bring down your 0. 5 goes into 10 2 times, remainder 0. Okay, so 5 to 12 is your next ray. Then you would try 6 next. So can 6 go into 60? So you would do long division, or you would skip count by 6s, and you would see if you could land on 60. And the answer is yes. 6 times 10 is 60. Okay. And then you would just want to make sure that the numbers between 6 and 10, none of those can multiply together to give you 60, which is true in this case. This is all of the factors of 60. Because the only other numbers that you could try would be 7, 8, and 9. And none of those can multiply together to give you 60. So we would say that 60 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 factors. Okay? So that is what the factor rainbow for 60 would look like. I'm just going to show you an example here. When you have a number like 16, so the rainbow would start out, of course, 1 to 16. And then 16's even, so 2 to 8 would be your next ray. But then 16 can't be divided by 3. The only other number that it has as a factor is 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So usually students will write the rainbow, the ray like this, 4 to 4. But because it's the same number, usually what we do for numbers like 16 is you would just draw your rainbow like this. So you would draw 1 to 16, 2 to 8, and then you just write the 4 in the middle like that. So then if I asked you how many factors the 16 have, you would say 5, because we don't count the 4 twice. So we would just say 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. So 9's another number like this because its factors are 1, 9, and 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. 25 is another number. 5 times 5 is 25. So yeah, if it has the same number times itself, just write it once like that. Okay. Other than that, prime numbers, I gave an example in the slideshow, but a prime number is a number like 7, where the only 2 numbers that you can multiply together to give you that number are 1 and itself. So we say that it only has 2 factors, 1 and whatever the number is. Okay, and so these rainbows are really easy to draw because that's all you can draw. You can't divide 7 by 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You can, but you get decimals. So we don't call those factors because factors are only whole numbers. Okay, so if I ever ask you to give me the factors for a number like 7, it's not a trick question. There's only 2, right? Because these are special numbers called prime. When a number has more than 2 factors, like 16, we call it composite. So we're gonna go over that vocabulary later. So that's just a little bit more on factors.